Hi, this is Amy Hutchins, and I'm at the University of Pennsylvania Special Collections Center with Marie Turner, who's a doctoral student in the English department here and has done a lot of work with this very exciting and unusual manuscript in our collections here. Could you tell us more about it, Marie?
Sure. So this is manuscript roll 1066, which is its actual call number, which I find endlessly amusing. And what it is a genealogical chronicle of the kings of England, beginning at the beginning, with the beginning of time with Adam and Eve, and working its way down to Edward IV, who became king in 1461. And this roll is part of a huge resurgence in the popularity of these kinds of genealogical chronicles during the Wars of the Roses, where they were used as a way to justify the rule of a particular house, either the House of Lancaster or the House of York. And that's enough historical context, I think, so we want to get to the good stuff. So I'm gonna give you some of the highlights here. So what we've got at the very beginning, like I said, is this is actually Adam and Eve in the garden, and you see Eve is sneakily handing Adam the fruit here as the snake is curled around the tree in the middle.
That first parchment looks very beat up. It's kind of taken a beating over the years, being the outside of the roll, I think.
Yeah, he's a little sad up here. But and so here's the beginning of time, and here is the world, and this is what this is a common medieval depiction of the world that's known as a T&O map. So you can see it looks like an O with a T in the middle of it, and this is. They conceived of the world as being separated into sort of three continents: Africa, Europe, and Asia. And so from Adam and Eve, we proceed down through sort of all of biblical history. Here we've got Noah looking up hopefully at his little rainbow. And then we just immediately move forward. And so I'm going to take you a little further on right now, and while Amy and I are rolling this, you're really going to get a sense of the form of this object, which it just functions very differently from a codex, which may seem like an obvious statement, but it's difficult to really get a feeling for that until you're actually attempting to work with this. Like as Amy and I worked on our transcription project, every time we moved forward, you can't just open the book to page 40. You have to unscroll it as you go along. So you have to move through all of this time again.
And you sort of see all of the justification for the end point right. Every time you open it.
And so what you can see over here is that on the other side of the parchment, there's actually a second text, which is also a genealogy, and it's the Genealogy of the Life of Christ by Peter of Poitiers, which is a very popular text at this time. And so you can see it's also very sort of lavishly decorated. What you're seeing there, I think, is the nativity?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It is, and one of the things that's fascinating to me is as we unroll this, you'll see that on the other side of where the nativity picture is the rondel that has the monogram for Jesus.
So this indicates on our history that this is the moment of the birth of Christ, and on the direct opposite is that rondel with the nativity picture on there. So it could be a coincidence, but we at least like to think that there was at least some effort being made there to help this really universal chronicle and this chronicle of the life of Christ match up ideologically there.
The Adam and Eve rondels on the two sides also match up, but that's a lot easier because it's at the very beginning of both texts.
All right, so you can see how much sort of work it is to move through this this document, which is one of the main questions that we get asked when we talk about this object is, well, how was it used? And that is a question that really, in large part, comes down to the form, and it's a difficult question to answer because this. The object itself is created out of 13 vellum membranes, and you can see right here the stitching that is holding these two membranes together. And all in all, we're talking about approximately 36 feet of text here. So in the same way that Amy and I found it difficult to just dip in and dip out of the text as we were working with it, similarly, someone who owned it, who might have used it as a prestige object, it wouldn't have been easy for them to just whip this out. And so it's the question of use is one of the sort of really fascinating questions here. So one of the other sort of highlights that I wanted to point out to you here is this guy right here. And he's one of 5 figures that are given these fancy mandorla decorations there, and that it's a fancy name for an almond-shaped opening. And they're very popular in devotional manuscripts. And this guy here is not a devotional figure, but if you can see this says Arturus Rex, King Arthur. So here we have this, we have this moment where this is this is purporting to be a historical text, but of course history had a very different meaning in the medieval period. So we have this moment where this legendary mythical history makes itself known. And Arthur, of course, was a very popular figure. There's not a ton of actual text about him here, but his name is rubricated down here in the text, which doesn't happen very often in this manuscript, so we can at least assume that the compiler and the scribe wanted to show that Arthur was some kind of a selling point here, that he was something that's exciting about this history. And you can see he's got this giant crown and this really amazing forked beard here, but he also has this giant cutlass that's just incredibly intimidating. So we have this conqueror Arthur here, and he also, in his other hand, he's holding an orb that seems to be separated out into those same 3 sections that the T&O map at the top of the roll had as well. So it's it could just be sort of the kingly orb, but also it also very sort of explicitly seems to represent the world itself. And
then everything suddenly changes.
Yes, we encounter significant problems because what happens is here we have this nice legendary mythical history that's easy to fit into this one line, and then what's happening here is this is the beginning of the Anglo-Saxon kingdoms. And so our compiler scribe has 8 kingdoms here, with the kingdom of Kent, the kingdom of the East Saxons, the kingdom of the South Saxons, the West Saxons, the Britons, the kingdom of Mercia, the kingdom of East Anglia, and the kingdom of Northumbria. And so we get this. We chose this moment in particular because it's this really nice. This nice place in the manuscript where you can really see this legendary history butting up against it's sort of a real documentable history that's coming out of the Anglo-Saxon chronicle, where these people from these kingdoms actually kept detailed records of what was going on in their kingdoms at the time. So it suddenly becomes more difficult to fit everything into this nice, easy line, and that the sort of schism and political chaos that was going on at this moment becomes visually represented on the actual text here.
And if we roll it up, then we get to see it start to simplify again.
So here we go. We got Anglo-Saxons, forever and ever.
And the lines start to disappear. So here you have a line that somebody conquers or it dies out in some way or another, and then you've got fewer columns, and the number of columns keep dropping out.
Right, and eventually what happens is that you get King Ethelstan, which I believe is right here, and he's considered the sort of first the first king of the English. And so we get everything is sort of moving back in the sort of right direction towards this single line of descent, which obviously is equally as false as that legendary history at the beginning.
And then we have another exciting moment.
Oh yeah, this is one of my favorites. So what we have here is this, as we've seen, this blue-green line is that that line of English kings that are coming out of the line of Wessex, and this red line over here is the line that's coming from Rollo and the Normans. And so they're moving along, and then we get this, this moment where suddenly the Norman line makes this, extremely precipitous turn, cuts through the text itself, and joins with the blue line here. And what we get is this great sort of this great alchemical moment where the blue line and the red line join together and create this gold. Gold leaf. And what's happening here is this is actually the Norman Conquest, and this is William the Conqueror. And so you can see whoever designed this, whether it was the choice of the scribe, the compiler, the person who may have commissioned this object, all of which are unknown to us. What this says to us is like, all right, here's where the history really happens. Here's where the sort of stuff gets real right here, and everything is covered in gold leaf from that point onward.
And then what's going on with all of these extra circles with the black and the red names that are clustered around the colorful figures down the middle?
So the main line, the line that we've been thinking of as sort of the line of genealogical descent here, really, as is obvious, is really just simply the line of regnal descent, rather than having to do with any kind of actual genealogical linkage. And so what's going on in all of these other circles is that this is, as we get closer to the Wars of the Roses, what started that conflict was these two families arguing over who had the actual right to the throne. And so as we get closer to that moment, we need sort of more and more evidence to back up our claim. So these red and black names are just, it's basically just fleshing out that genealogical history. And the red names are all women, and the black names are men, just incidentally. Okay.
And then you get to these problematic guys who had so many children that caused all this trouble.
Yeah.
Complicated everything.
And then finally, what we have here at the very end is Edward the Fourth, the king for whom all of these roles sort of were made. And we can date this document with pretty specifically to 1461 because, as I said, that's when Edward IV took the throne, and he was married about a year or two later, and other similar roles that were made after his marriage universally depict his wife. And furthermore, the text actually ends before his reign. So we have his image is here. He's obviously being shown as the one who has the true claim, but the text hasn't quite caught up to him yet.
We've arrived at the present, at the bottom of the roll.
No, exactly. I mean, and it's sort of this. I mean, it's an interesting moment in history. Both Edward IV and his rival, this guy Henry VI, both. So we've got a Yorkist and a Lancastrian, and both of them were creating exactly the same type of role, using the exact same history, but the Lancastrians were making the opposite claim, that actually Henry VI was the one who should be in power. And of course this struggle went on for a number of years, ultimately, not that long afterwards, some unknown nobody named Henry Tudor came along and spoiled everything and took the power, and put it in a totally new place. And we have the beginning of the Tudor dynasty, and some would say the end of the Middle Ages.
Thanks, Marie.